What's up, YouTube? This is your boy John from the Jersey Shore, and I am back with you today to give you my ranking of all 8 films in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Nightmare on Elm Street was the brainchild of the legendary filmmaker Wes Craven. He started us on this journey in 1984, and it has gone all the way up until there was a controversial remake made in 2010. Wes Craven introduced the world to Freddy Krueger, who got us much better acquainted with our worst nightmares. Freddy Krueger became a pop culture icon in the 80s and 90s, and here we are 36 years later still talking about him, and he is still to this day recognized around the globe as one of the biggest names and faces in the horror genre. We have had a total of 8 Nightmare on Elm Street films spanning a period of 26 years. We've had the good, we've had the bad, we've had the horrendously ugly. And this is my ranking of those 8 films. Get your popcorn ready. Coming in at number 8 is The Dream Child.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. It's a boy!
So in The Dream Child, one of our main characters is pregnant. And the way that Freddy is attacking our victims in this movie is he's using the unborn child and he is invading that child's dreams in order to attack our main character's friends. Yeah, this one's pretty bad. Honestly, there really isn't very much to talk about here. This was a bad movie from conception to completion. The idea in this movie I think is kind of horrible as well. I know that there's a lot of people out there who actually like this movie. I am not one of those people. We get a view of a baby Freddy in this movie. It's pretty horrendous and pretty horrifying looking. But this movie here, I don't think this had anything good to offer. I definitely don't consider this movie to be a horror movie. There's 3 movies in here that I would definitely not call horror movies, and this was one of them. I knew as I was going through these movies that this had to be the worst of all of them, that there was no way in the world that it got any worse than this. The Dream Child. Terrible, terrible movie, terrible, terrible idea. Freddy didn't even look good in this movie. This movie was terrible. Coming in at number 7, we have Freddys Dead, The Final Nightmare.
What's with kids today, huh?
Freddys Dead, The Final Nightmare.
This is another one in the franchise that I don't consider to be a horror movie. I knew that this movie was doomed from the start when, as soon as you saw Freddy Krueger, he was riding a broom like the Wicked Witch of the West in the Wizard of Oz movies. I knew immediately after I saw that this was not going to be a good movie. This movie gave us Freddy Krueger playing video games, where he is stomping on a very young Breckin Meyer in a video game, talking about the graphics of the video game. The Freddy Krueger in this movie also looked terrible. He looked like he was made out of silly putty rather than the typical Freddy Krueger makeup, riddled with one-liners. So many one-liners that you almost anticipated audience applause to be piped in, laughter and applause to be piped in after he spoke. This movie was just god-awful as well. There was not anything redeeming about this movie whatsoever. He seemed more like a comic book character in this movie than he did the legendary Freddy Krueger that we all know and love. I guess given the title, that this was actually supposed to be the death of Freddy Krueger, this was supposed to be the end of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Thankfully, Wes Craven stepped in and gave us another movie after this one, so that it at least gave this franchise a better chance of going out on a high note, because this movie was just no good. Coming in at number 6 is Dream Master.
How sweet, fresh meat.
A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4.
Okay, in Dream Master, Freddy is returning to try and extract revenge and take out the 3 remaining survivors from the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, the Dream Warriors. In this film, Freddy Krueger looked amazing. For me personally, this was the beginning of the end. For me, this is where the one-liners began. And there was one part in here where he was eating a pizza that was, the toppings were supposed to be souls. It was just bad. I guess the high notes on this, Freddy, like I said, Freddy looked amazing. There was one kill in this movie where there was a girl working out, and he basically broke her arms at the elbows, and she transformed into a cockroach, and he squished her in a cockroach motel. Of course, he said he gave a silly one-liner after he killed her. But that was pretty cool. I did kind of like that he brought back 3 characters from the Dream Warriors. One thing I did not like about that, though, was Patricia Arquette was Christy in the original Dream Warriors movie, Part 3, but in Part 4, Christy was played by somebody named Tuesday Knight. I didn't care for that at all. I would have much preferred that they kept the same character. It would have been great to keep the same actress. I'm sure that there has to be a reason for that. Whatever that reason was, I don't think it's good enough. I think they should have thrown enough money at her to bring her back. If it was important enough to bring that character back, it should have been important enough for them to pay that actress. Other than that, I would say this movie was better than the 2 that I just talked about, but this movie still is not noteworthy in any way whatsoever. I did not enjoy this movie either. Like I said, this was the beginning of the end. This was the movie that turned me off of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Coming in at number 5 is Freddys Revenge.
A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 2.
You are all my children now.
Freddys Revenge.
Freddys Revenge is the first movie on this list that I actually liked. This is where Freddy was still scary. Freddys Revenge was still a horror movie. This movie still had that grainy, gritty feel of the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Freddy Krueger was great in this movie. The effects were great in this movie. He looked great in this movie. He was scary in this movie. It was still a horror movie. I thought this movie was fantastic. It was very dated. It definitely felt very much like it was made in the 80s. When I watched this the other day, I was like, ow, it kind of made me take a step back. I forgot how dated this movie actually was. But this one was good. Just the story was good. The characters were good. The acting it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. But like I said, it was still a horror movie. Freddy was scary. It looked great. It was gory. When this franchise got away from that, that's when the whole franchise took a dive for me. So yeah, Freddy's Revenge, man. It was a good movie. I think it still holds up. Coming in at number 4 is The Dream Warriors.
He wears a dirty brown hat. He's horribly burned. He has razors on his right hand.
Dream Warriors marks the return of Wes Craven. He did not write or direct Part 2, but he did come back and direct Part 3. This movie ranks lower on my list than I think it ranks on most people's lists. A lot of people find The Dream Warriors to be their favorite movie of the entire franchise. And the people who don't do, The Dream Warriors is a really solid movie. Like I said, Wes Craven directed this movie. Heather Langenkamp returned in this movie. We have Patricia Arquette in this movie. We have Lawrence Fishburne in this movie. We have the other characters that are in the psychiatric home. They are the Dream Warriors. Kincaid was one of them. I can't remember what all their names were. But this was good. The special effects in this movie were really outstanding. I thought that the performances of Patricia Arquette and Heather Langenkamp together were outstanding. Again, Freddy Krueger was still scary in this movie. There was a point in this movie where he threw out his first one-liner, which is where I kind of took a step back. But overall, I thought this was really, really good. I definitely like the angle that Patricia Arquette, when she had nightmares, she could pull people into her nightmares. I enjoyed that. She could pull people in, and Heather Langenkamp proved in earlier movie in the franchise that you can pull Freddy out. So I thought that this was a really fresh idea. It was really good. I'm glad Wes Craven came back for this one. Coming in at number 3 is Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
This is still a script we're talking about, right, Wes?
He's decided to cross over out of films into our reality. The only way to stop him is to make another movie.
Oh my God.
You're gonna have to make a choice.
What kind of choice?
Whether or not you're willing to play Nancy.
I thought that the new Nightmare was awesome. Wes Craven again returned for this, and his take on his spin, this new fresh idea, I thought it was just fabulous. In this movie, Freddy Krueger is not haunting the dreams of Wes Craven created characters, he's haunting the dreams of the actual actors. Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, Wes Craven. The spin on this character I thought was fabulous. The look of Freddy Krueger in this movie, he doesn't look like the traditional Freddy Krueger. He looks more sinister. He looks more dark. In this movie, he's actually wearing like a black trench coat. He's wearing a green hat and leather pants too. I'm not crazy about those, but I can live with it. The story in this movie it was fantastic. He is now haunting the actual actress, Heather Langenkamp, in this movie. He's haunting her. He's haunting her son. He's haunting Robert Englund. It's really, really cool. And ultimately, the end of the movie, in order to defeat Freddy Krueger, Heather Langenkamp has to transform into Nancy from the original movies so that she can again beat Freddy Krueger. I just thought this movie was fabulous. Wes Craven did a great thing here. I was so happy that he returned to do this movie and create this movie after that dud of a movie, Freddys Dead, so that the Nightmare on Elm Street series could end on a high note. It would have been an absolute sin for this franchise to end with Freddys Dead. New Nightmare was fabulous. Coming in at number 2 is the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Why are you screaming? I haven't even cut you yet.
I loved this movie. I thought that Jackie Earle Haley did a fantastic job as Freddy Krueger. I enjoyed the take that he looked more like a burn victim than the Robert Englund Freddy Krueger. The story I thought was really good. I think they stuck to the story enough to make it recognizable as a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but they deviated from that story just enough to make it different, to give it a different flavor. I enjoyed the fact that they made him a child molester instead of a child murderer, not because I'm condoning something like that, but because it simply makes him more evil. It makes him more unlikable. I also like that prior to them saying that that's what he did and showing that that's what he did, or hinting that that's what he did, they almost made him seem innocent. So you went from hating Freddy Krueger and fearing him to feeling sorry for him to hating him more than you did in the first place. I thought it was brilliant writing. I thought that spin on that character was fabulous. I think that this was probably the most well-acted movie of the entire franchise, including the original. I'm not going to say that it was the better story or that it was the better directed or even the best movie, because that one's still to come, but definitely the best acted movie of all of them. I like this movie. I don't understand why so many people dislike this movie so much. I have to assume that it's because it's not Robert Englund. A lot of people don't really care for change very much, and after being fed Robert Englund for 7 movies over a period of, 16 years or so, something along those lines. I'm not sure exactly what the timeline was. After giving all those movies over all those years with Robert Englund, bringing somebody different in, I'm sure is a shock to a lot of people's system. And yes, it's very different. This was a very different feel. Everything about this movie was different, with the exception of the hat, the glove, and the green and red sweater. Everything about this felt different. Looked different, acted different, sounded different, everything was different. But I liked it. Different is okay with me. I enjoyed this movie a lot, and I think it's better than every movie in this franchise except for the one I got coming next. Coming in at number 1, of course, is the 1984 original film.
Nancy, there's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
I honestly can't imagine a list of Nightmare on Elm Street movies where this movie is not ranked number one. The 1984 original movie was so different. It was so imaginative. It was the birth of a pop culture icon by a mastermind of horror. Wes Craven created Freddy Krueger and gave him to the world. This movie was scary. This movie was bloody. This movie was dark and gritty and grainy and dirty. This movie is what a horror movie is supposed to be. Everything, there's not a knock or a flaw. Well, you know what? There is one flaw. I'll get to that in a second. This movie is a masterpiece. It gave the world it didn't give the world Johnny Depp, but it introduced the world to Johnny Depp. It gave us Heather Langenkamp as Nancy. Freddy Krueger was just burst onto the scene after this movie. And here we are, like I said earlier in the video, we're 36 years later, 36 years removed from when this movie came out. When this movie came out, I was 13 years old, and we are still talking about Freddy Krueger. Let me get to that flaw real quick. The only flaw that I had in this entire movie is the very, very end of the movie when Nancy's mother gets pulled through the door, and you can see clearly that this is a blow-up doll. I remember when I saw this as a little boy, I thought that scene looked kind of hokey, but now when I went back and I watched it again, it is clearly a blow-up doll. Take that out of the movie, and this is a perfect movie in my opinion. It couldn't be any better. I thought this movie was fantastic, and for good reason. This is one of the most legendary movies in the entire history of the horror genre. So when I started this journey of doing these Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I didn't know how this was going to turn out. I knew back when these movies all came out, when they came out in the movie theater, I saw just about all of them in the movie theater, and the memory that I have was my disdain for parts 4, part 5, and part 6. That's what stuck in my mind. The only movies that I have actually gone back and watched in the last several years is the 1984 film and the 2010 film. So it did me a lot of good as a horror fan, as a movie reviewer, as the owner and operator of a YouTube channel, to go back and watch all 8 of these films. I made it a choice on purpose to not mention Freddy vs. Jason because that's not a Nightmare on Elm Street film. It's a collaboration film with 2 different horror icons in it, and I like that film a lot, to be honest with you. If I put it on this list, it would be higher than a lot of these Nightmare on Elm Street movies, trust me. But I don't consider that to be a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, so it is not on my list. We had a Freddy Krueger television show years ago called Freddy's Nightmares. I won't even bother watching that movie because everything that I've ever read, seen, or saw reviewed on that said that it really was not that good, so I'm not even going to waste my time with it. I know that there are talks right now of there possibly being another Nightmare on Elm Street film going to be in our future. There is a Nightmare on Elm Street next Netflix show possibly coming to us. So Freddy Krueger is still with us. After all these years, he's still here. That 1984 film gave us something that has lasted basically forever now. Lord only knows how long this thing is going to go. Wes Craven died a few years ago, and they are still, I believe his family are the ones who are involved in the approval and creation, possibly, of the Freddy Krueger continuation with the TV show and or movie, and I just think it's awesome. There's another piece of Nightmare on Elm Street work out there that is really, really entertaining, and if you're a horror nut like I am and you like all the behind-the-scenes stuff and documentaries, there's a documentary called Never Sleep Again. I saw it on Netflix quite a while ago. I just actually tried to pull that up again a couple days ago on Netflix, and it's not there. It is on Amazon Prime right now, but you have to rent it. It's not included in Prime. But that thing was fabulous. It spans all the way from the beginning of the franchise all the way up to the 2010 remake. It's behind the scenes stuff. It's interviews. It's awesome. If you get a chance to watch that, I definitely recommend that. I would also rank that way high on this list if I included that in the list. It's very entertaining. It's very informative. I highly recommend it. If you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, you have to watch that. Alright folks, that is going to do it for my ranking of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you have been enjoying my content, please do me a huge favor. Click that subscribe button, and after you click that subscribe button, remember to ring that notification bell. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, have a kick-ass day, and thank you for watching.